stayed up so unbelievably late to draw all of this, but I want to make sure you guys get something that's a bit more interesting. So here we are. I've turned K-pop albums into humans before, but that was only 4 of the many albums out there. I had fun last time, so why not do it again? But of course, with 4 albums, courtesy of my friend Joey choosing them for me. Like I said in the last video, you can't trust me to choose the albums. I was a bit surprised with his choices for me, but I knew they were going to be fun, so let's get into the first one. The first album we're making a design for today is ITZY's Gold album. They had a comeback and I forgot to listen like I always do. I only find out about the groups I casually listen to like months later, which is embarrassing, but yeah. Since I had to come up with a design, obviously I had to take a listen to their title tracks, that being Gold and Imaginary Friend. Right off the bat, I knew this was going to be difficult. Like I did with all of the other designs, I was going to find a way to incorporate all of the versions of the album into this one design. But coming up with the specific clothes was what tripped me up. You see, Gold and Imaginary Friend are like night and day when it comes to the vibes in my head. Gold is so much more upbeat, while Imaginary Friend is more slow. When making these designs, I keep the title track in mind and use the styling from the music videos to help me. I'm sure you can see where there are issues. How was I supposed to combine the vibes of both title tracks into this design? I agonized over this. I spent a good couple of minutes trying to think before deciding I am just going to wing it. Starting off with the hair. I took inspiration from how Ryujin's hair looks in some of the concept photos. It's not a direct copy, but I kind of liked how the hair was up in sort of a bun, so I gave this character a messy bun. That way, I can at least reference one of the title tracks. I'd say the majority of this design takes inspiration from Imaginary Friend though. In the music video, there were moments where the members had bruises, so I threw it onto this character. The main outfit this character wears is inspired by the black dress Leah wore. Then, near the last second, I decided to throw on some jeans and sneakers because I realized that we didn't have much of Gold's vibes on there, and we need things to be balanced. So this design seems pretty chaotic and clashy, and I'm so sorry if people don't like that. I really did try to capture the energy of both songs in this design, and that is tough. But I'm sure I'll get better in the future. I think my favorite part about this character design is definitely the colors. Of course, the colors are based on what was on the albums. This has a lot of colors, which isn't exactly smart for character design. Usually, you'd want to limit yourself, but I couldn't for this. I mean, this is just for fun. I should have honestly color picked from the albums, but again, I didn't do that. I tried to match the colors based on what my eyes saw to an extent. Are the swatches probably inaccurate? Most definitely. But it doesn't matter as long as the vibes are there, right? I think in terms of shapes, I kept things kind of angular and geometric. It's a lot like Zombie's design, but more colorful, I guess. Yeah, I'm just calling that character Zombie because I don't have a name for her. So why not refer to all of these characters as the name of their albums, right? But that's besides the point. I really love how the album cover for Gold looks and how geometric it is. Something about it is super satisfying. That on top of the colors too. I am not an ITZY stan, but I am kind of mad at myself now for not checking out the songs when they first came out. I think in terms of album designs that are easy to humanize, it's gonna be those with geometric shapes that are the easiest, because it gives you more of a direction on where to take things. Kind of like a guide so people will more easily be able to tell what the design is based off of. I think that's why in my last video, Zombie's design was my favorite, because you can just tell what she was supposed to be. I'd say this one you'd be able to tell what she's based off, but maybe just by the colors. Even if she's a bit chaotic, I have to say she's my second favorite design. This is not my favorite design because I just feel like there are a couple of things I can do better, but I'm just really critical on myself. Shading this was actually kind of painful for me. I wouldn't say this was a nightmare, just painful. The skin and eyes were normal, but it was the clothes that was just tedious. It was because I decided to just split things into numerous layers, which, yeah, I could have cleaner shading, I guess. But it was just a mind-numbing process as I went in and shaded each individual layer. I think I've said it numerous times, but I'll say it again. I absolutely hate shading clothes. It's just boring and can get so tedious if you have so many layers, or if the outfits are complex, which for something like this, I usually make the outfits a bit complex. Like, why? Why would I do that? Well, It's because I did say I didn't want boring character designs. If I wanted a boring character design so badly, I'd just design a normal muse and call it a day. Alright, so this speed paint is finishing up, so let me show you the character design for Gold. Here is the final design for Gold. Even if she has a hectic design, I think she still came out really cute. She has a nice mix of elegant yet crazy, which is nice. Hopefully I did the album justice. The second album I'm making a design for is the Boys' Be Aware album. I had to use a lot of brain cells to figure out this one. So they have 3 versions of this album, and as usual, I had no idea what I was doing, but we deal with it. You may have noticed that the cover used for it is very different than the versions of the album I just showed. Yeah, I didn't realize that until much later. I should have incorporated it a bit more, but it's fine. I had a small reference to it on accident, so I'm not going to complain. Now, at one point, I was somewhat into the Boys. I don't think I'd call myself a stan, but I wouldn't say I was just a casual listener either. I guess just a fan or something. I heard Reveal and was like, oh yeah, these guys are good, let me check them out. And then I got drawn into the personalities, especially Kevin. He is absolutely hilarious. But alright, on to what I'm doing for this design. The title track for this album is Whisper. Of course, that meant I had to watch the music video. I watched the music video a while back, but I needed a refresher. So Whisper is pretty upbeat and sounds like a cute song. So I knew this character had to be more cute looking. I made sure to give the character softer features. I looked at the concept photos for the album, and as expected, they're on the lighter side. So I'd say the direction I needed to take for this was more straightforward than it was with Gold's design. Even if I had a direction, I still struggled on a couple of things. For starters, the hair. Sure, you guys have seen me draw mostly men, but that doesn't mean I'm an expert. I struggle with the hair when it comes to men, so I kind of had a crisis on what to do before settling on a simpler hairstyle. I saw Sang-yeon's photos and knew I wanted to give this guy a cap for his design because it looked cute. So that meant I should give him a really simple hairstyle since half of it is pretty much covered with a cap. For the actual outfit itself, I was not liking how it was turning out initially because it seemed a bit plain. The clothes they wore in the concept photos was nothing crazy. Then I realized I could spice things up with accessories, so that's what I did. I don't know why I gave this guy mismatched gloves, but hey, they're always fun. I also gave this guy a fluffy megaphone because in the Whisper music video and the concept photos, I saw that some of the members were holding it. So I thought it'd be fun to give. I feel like this guy has the same energy as Dilemma, which is kind of nice. He'd 100% be besties with Dilemma. They're both giving chaotic sunshine energy. I think it'd be really interesting to think of full-on personalities for all of these designs since, well, they're characters, right? Just characters based off of these K-pop albums though. You know, if I was really feeling it, maybe I can draw some character interaction pieces with some of these designs together, even if they're going to be painful to draw because I believe I put an insane amount of detail into each of these designs. Doing the line art for this design was absolutely painful. It was so tedious and I hated every second of it. It was probably because of all of the things I threw onto this design. There's a lot, so what did I expect? The coloring took a while too because let's just say I had a moment where I blanked on what I wanted to do color-wise. I knew I had to use the colors that were on the albums, but where to place them was a different story, especially with the clothes. I kept struggling because seriously, what was I doing? Yet again, we have another example of clothes being painful and screwing me up. But I need to draw good clothes on my characters to basically hide my anatomy mistakes. I love drawing baggy clothes for that reason. But yeah, I suck at anatomy and I really do need to work on it. But let's just say my time is kind of being eaten up by both university and life stuff and of course pumping out content for you guys. Maybe one of these days when I give myself an easy week or something. So I mentioned how this album was a lot of colors, which meant we weren't going to have too much dullness with this design. I kept going back and forth with changing colors like my life depended on it. I was hating a lot of combinations, but I eventually settled for something. It could be better, I guess. You'd probably notice me trying to draw something on the shirt, and it was because I thought it was plain. So the solution? Draw a graphic of sorts. I was thinking that maybe a smiley face could look cute, but I can't make it look cute, so I just went with a simple heart instead. There are like a couple of hearts in this design now that I think about it, but hearts are cute, and I guess considering the aesthetics I saw in the Whisper music video, it's fitting enough. I'd say this design was very much a trust the process design for me. I think most of my designs are like that, but this one especially. I guess the sky shares that with Dilemma because I remembered how I had to trust the process on that design too. But I'm kind of glad I trusted the process here. I kept going, even if things were seeming really painful. I feel like when things are not going my way in art, I tend to lose motivation so fast. Like, I just want to give up, procrastinate further, and maybe doom scroll on YouTube a bit. I did dabble in a little bit of doom scrolling while working, but it wasn't too bad, I think. I at least managed to get things done, but at the cost of my sleep schedule. I work on these videos starting Sunday, and then on Monday I obviously have classes. Sleep is super important, but I sacrificed it a bit to get things done. Let's just say it's worth it though. I like getting my art things done. I'd say shading this went a lot faster than how it was for gold in my opinion. I still hated shading the clothes because of course I did. But it could have been worse. I could have suffered a lot more, but I didn't, so thank God. Anyways, the speed paint is wrapping up, so I'll show you all the final design. Here's the final design I made for Be Aware. He turned out adorable. Definitely my third favorite design I've made for this batch. Even with the little mishaps, he was still fun to design. Hope I did the album justice. The third album I'm making a design for is TWICE's With Youth album. I don't think I've kept up with TWICE since 2019 for whatever reason. I definitely remember liking their music a lot though. I obviously had no idea about this album because I live in a hole of just my favorite groups for real. It's bad. Of course, there are 3 versions of this album, and this is where I knew I'd have issues when it comes to coloring. After all, red, green, and black is hard for me to work with. But that wasn't going to stop me from trying though. The title track to this song is One Spark, and this is another instance where I'm so mad at myself for not keeping up with them because One Spark is such an amazing song. TWICE aren't here to play. The concept photos for this album are super gorgeous and I love the outfits, so I had to take some inspiration. However, this album was possibly the hardest one to come up with a good design for, even harder than Geeky Land in the last video. I said it in the last video, but the hardest albums for me to come up with a design for are the ones that use photos, which is exactly the case here. I'm not creative enough to come up with something that's wild. I think another reason why it's tougher for me is because there are a lot less design elements I can snatch for a character design. What I mean by that is, take what I did for Gold for example. I used a lot of sharp angles because there was a lot of those shapes on the album cover. In this album, I just have a pretty photo, so I had to use all of my brain cells to come up with something. I'd say compared to the other designs in this video, this one is my least favorite because I could have been more creative. But I guess I don't have the capacity to. You probably wouldn't be able to tell what album she's based off of, but she's still a cute character. Just doesn't live up to the same standards as my other designs have. I'll still walk you all through my thought process for this design though. So you noticed that I gave her a braid, and it was because while watching the music video for One Spark, I loved how Mina's hair looked for this one outfit. I thought it'd be super cool on a character, so I took it. I don't draw a lot of female characters, and if I did, usually their hair is down. I feel like I hardly draw characters with braids normally too, so this was a nice hairstyle for this character. I think it oddly fits for this design. The vibes I got for One Spark is celebration, New Year's Eve kind of look, so I did want to make sure I get that in somehow. I don't know how well I succeeded with that one, maybe not well, but there was an attempt. I can't really say there was a specific member I took inspiration from when it comes to the dress. I kind of just looked at everyone and tried to figure something out. Her dress is super pretty though, even if it's on the plainer side of things. But maybe you guys will disagree with me and think that the fact that this design is simplistic is really good. I guess I'm used to how crazy I've made the other designs, that the craziness is all I ever see. I'd say the good thing about the design being more simplistic was that it was much easier to do the line art and coloring. So I'd say I got the line art done relatively fast. For coloring, it was difficult mostly because of the fact I had to figure out how to make things work. But the process of making the layers themselves wasn't too bad. Unlike the others, I only had, I think, 2 layers of flat colors for the clothes. You'll see me get on with the coloring soon, and let's just say that there was a lot of trial and error. So I usually start the flat colors off with the hair because that's at the very top of my layers. Deciding the hair color was tough because I wanted to somehow reference one of the versions of the album, but which one? No idea. I wasn't too keen on green hair because I felt like it didn't look good, so at first I settled on this red color, you know, to reference one of the versions. I gave her an ombre with yellow and thought that looked cool. I mean, it's one spark, and the hair could be fiery or something. That was my rationale for that. But you'll see near the end of me doing the flat colors, and when I get started on the shading, I changed the hair color to black and just had a more faint ombre at the end because I realized the bright colorful hair maybe didn't fit with the album that much. Especially when you factor in how none of the members have crazy hair colors. Of course, if this wasn't a photo, things would be different, and I could go crazier, but I feel like since you see all of the members on the album covers, I need to kind of restrain myself just a tad bit, just so you can kind of tell what album she's based off of, but not actually. As much as I bash on myself for making this design so simple, I'll give myself credit where credit is due. This light glitter corset or whatever it's supposed to be has got to be the best thing about this design. I absolutely love how it turned out, and even though it was a lot of painful layers, it was so worth it. It makes me want to add more glitter to designs one day. I mean, I do kind of draw glitter like on Hye's makeup for example, but it's like really small, not so noticeable. If it's on a piece of clothing, then it's more noticeable. The speed paint is wrapping up, so I'll show you all the final design. So here's the final design for the With Youth album. I think out of all of the designs, this one probably follows the general rules of character design the best. So she holds that title hands down, even if she isn't my favorite design. She's still cute though. Hopefully I did the album justice. Now we're on to the final design, and the one most people probably clicked for if they saw the thumbnail. So the last album I'm making a design for is Stray Kids' Maxident album. I swear, when Joey told me all the albums I was going to design, I got so excited when I saw Stray Kids, because we all know that's one of my old groups right there. But of course, it also made me a bit nervous for designing because I know I'd put such high expectations on myself because if there's anyone I have to do right, it's my faves. So there are 3 versions of the album, and I will admit that I did not do a good job of incorporating all of the designs into this character, but he turned out so adorable and he's my all-time favorite right now. Yeah, I'm like super biased, but even if we ignored that, I think he manages to follow the rules of character design while still having that flair, you know? Now, usually when I'm designing characters, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing and the direction to take. The ideas aren't ideaing, you know? But this one had a different problem. I had too many ideas and directions I could go with this because the photos were giving me a lot of inspiration. But I think that's just because Maxident is a fun album, or I really am just biased. Oops. One thing I knew for sure was that this character had to be on the lighter side. But I kept a couple of sharp features because a lot of Stray Kids' music is hardcore. They have some slower songs, but I think they're more known for their energy. I actually tried to give this character a bit of a grin this time because I don't know why, I just feel like this character would be always smiling. So I said there were a lot of directions I could take this character, but I'll get more into that later. I'll talk about my thought process for what stayed consistent, and that would be the hair. I felt like wavy hair would be fun and oddly fitting. But then I noticed how the X in Maxident was kind of funky, but in a good way. So I kind of made the hair have sharper shapes, if that makes sense. Just a small reference to that. Okay, now I can get into the directions I could have gone with this. Obviously, when I have no ideas, I turn to concept photos to help me. I still looked at the concept photos from Maxident, and they were really fun. Again, they were super light, so I had to keep that in mind. I was particularly inspired by this specific Sunmin concept photo, and at first I wanted to make a cupid of sorts. Don't ask me how I got cupid from that. But then I suddenly remembered the title track being Case 143, and that's when I knew that it would be illegal of me to not give this guy a police-inspired design. But I could have also gone with a fun streetwear too, given the other concept photos. But the police design had me in a chokehold. I think you guys can tell I had a little bit too much fun with the whole police aesthetic, especially with the heart handcuffs as just an accessory. But listen, it was too fitting. I had to throw them on there. You know, maybe I could make an alternative outfit for this guy of what the other concepts would have been, but only if you guys want to see that. Or I might just do it anyways if I'm bored because that's fun. Case 143 is pretty much a love song, so what was the most logical thing for me to do? Throw in hearts literally everywhere. The hat has a heart, the belt has a heart, hell, I gave him a mole under his eye that is also a heart. If being the love police is a job, this is one of the guys running the show. I'd say this was easy for me to get through because obviously I'd be motivated by one of my old groups. I think anyone would be. The only thing that was painful was the fact that I was recording the footage and didn't stop until midnight on a Sunday night. I'm editing this on Monday and let me just say, oh man, I had a hard time getting out of bed early, but that's okay. I'd do anything for my art stuff at this point. So we're at the coloring stage of the speed paint, so let me talk a little bit about it. I almost gave this guy pink hair, but then I feel like that'd be a bit too much. So I settled for black hair, but with a pink ombre and streaks instead. Once again, Sunmin was the inspiration for it because of his streaks. The colors pretty much were just pink, black, and white, because those are the only colors on the album. With just those colors being used in this design, I feel like it makes it satisfying to look at. But that's just my opinion, of course. Black, white, and pink has got to be my favorite color combination in designs. It just looks so nice in all of the right ways. I did use 2 different shades of pink in this design though. One that I think is closer to the actual album cover and one that is just a cute pastel pink. It acts more like an accent color. I think it works really well. And especially the little designs on the pants is nice. The doodles on the pants was just my attempt at referencing the other versions but failing miserably. For whatever reason, I gave him mismatched gloves because that looks cool. At this point, I think I just do a lot of things because it looks cool and not because there's a practical reason, which is fine, but maybe in moderation. I do know you're supposed to balance practicality with rule of cool, but that definitely didn't happen much with any of my designs. Shading him was quite fun, even if there were a lot of little layers. I think my pure determination to finish this was pulling through and I didn't get too distracted, which is good. Alright now, seems like the speed paint is wrapping up, so I'll show the final design. Here's the final design for Maxident. Like I said, this is my favorite design and I love everything about it. I suddenly want to come up with an entire personality and backstory for him as well as the rest of my designs, but I'll hold back. Anyways, I hope I did the album justice. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Making these designs is super fun and definitely a good challenge for me. Let me know which one is your favorite in the comments. If you'd like to see more of me, consider hitting the like and subscribe button. It really helped. Thank you all for watching and I will see you in the next one.